So friends, we have made it here to Cowan's Gap State Park here in Fulton County, Pennsylvania. And we have a lot on the agenda for this trip. We're here for quite a good length of time. This here's our site. Rachel's walking around over there exploring. It is site 21. Is that 21 or is, yeah, I guess this one is. That's 22. Well, anyway, we're filling up with water right there. And my parents have site 23, which is just up above us on the hill here. It's a tent only site up here, which they were actually able to book that last minute, and this is 4th of July weekend. So something important to note when you're coming here to Cowan's Gap. I don't know what the site numbers are. I'll put the map up there, but this is campground area A, where we're at right now. So we were confused. We didn't know whether it was A or B, and they don't really tell you what site numbers are associated with A or B on the signs. Anyhow, these sites, camp area A, and then camp area B is on the other side of the lake. I normally don't make a big production over backing up into a site, but you can see over there it's where we filled up with water, and then our site is here. But it was difficult to get down here, and then now we're just trying to level things out, and it's not a particularly level site either. So we're going to try to get up on some blocks on this side here and get her straightened out, and then this one's got to go to bed before he gets cranky. I think we've turned the corner though with him. He is becoming a lot more pleasant. The good moments are starting to outweigh the bad, so that's that's when you know you're turning the corner with the child. Now I'll say that, and then this trip will turn out to be a disaster. You'll notice that Sarah is not here with us. She's been enjoying some time out west with Rachel's parents. They are on an RV road trip, kind of dream vacation type of situation.
She's done 12 states in the past 2 weeks. My parents are staying out there. My brother's going to fly out and get her, so my parents are continuing their RV road trip for the summer, but Sarah's going to come home, so she's gotten to do more states and more national parks than I have, I think, in my 30 years, so she's having a good time though, but we're excited to have her back. We did Cass a couple weekends ago, but my dad wanted to take her out to ride the Durango-Silverton train in Colorado, and they FaceTimed me when they were at the train station, and she was over the moon excited. It was so fun to be able to see her begin to experience that trip. So, but we're excited to have her back, hopefully on Sunday, as long as the flights don't get canceled. So you'll see her for a little bit of this trip, we hope.
So I've said this many times, but it's one of them things that you can't overstate enough. Chalk your wheels. In this case, my setup is kind of wonky. I got 2 blocks here and 1 over there. The back wheel actually could go up higher, but I don't know how to do that. So this is where we're at. This is how we got it. It's close. Friends, this morning we're headed over to Meadow Grounds Lake, which was just recently refilled. They just recently repaired the dam. We've never been there, but some of the YouTube videos that I've seen about the area have the lake totally drained. we're gonna hike over to what they call Jarrett Falls, if we can find it. I've done a good bit of research, I've watched some videos, so I sort of know the general vicinity of where it is, but this is kind of an off the beaten path, not a heavily traveled trail. So that's why we're doing it today, because we don't have Sarah, and we're not taking the dogs, because this is a bad year so far, at least from what I've seen online, for rattlesnakes. And because it's not a heavily traveled trail, I thought that it would be a bad idea to be doing this with Sarah and the dogs. So it's just me and Rachel and the baby, and we'll see you over at Meadow Grounds. Friends, we've made it here to Meadow Grounds Lake. As you can see, we have found the dam, which you can see behind me. The falls are somewhere below the dam, obviously, on the river. This is, though, a fantastic spot by the looks of it to kayak. And like I said, they just refilled the lake, so this is all pretty much new. Well, I mean, it's old, but it's renewed or restored or whatever you want to call it. But we're gonna go try to find the trailhead, and we'll see you over there. We do have the kayaks with us in the truck. We're definitely gonna kayak over at Cowan's Gap, but here, you know, our main goal is to find the falls. But this is a very nice setting. I really do like it.
Look at all these flowers. Sarah would love this. So pretty.
We're over here at the spillway, which, as you can tell, is what was recently repaired. It's part of the project to restore the dam. And I'll tell you what, this place is really beautiful, and it's a beautiful day. Waterfalls like this are a springtime thing, and you'll get a better flow in the spring when there's more rain. But it hasn't been too dry lately, so, you know, I'm hoping that there's some water. Plus, with the lake here, there should be water pretty consistently. So, we'll see. The trail starts right here by the spillway. As you can see, the spillway is up there, and this is your trail marker here. The trail and the falls must have been named after Carl E. Jarrett. Let's make it happen here. Friends, as you can see, it's not like we're totally bushwhacking here. It's a pretty well-worn path, I guess you could say, but it's not like a wide open maintained trail. You should be able to find your way. We're right there. That's what you got as far as blazes go. And friends, I don't think I've mentioned yet, but Meadow Grounds Lake, it was only like 5 or 6 miles backtracking on 30 for us to get here. So this is very, very close to Cowan's Gap, which is part of the reason we're doing this as part of this adventure. There's plenty of stuff to do at Cowan's Gap, which we are going to get into for sure later in this episode or the next one, depending on how many there are. But this is a little side adventure. We do like to do this kind of stuff, explore the area that we're in. That bridge right there is where we just came out at. And back up that way is where Meadow Grounds Lake is. But we've encountered some sort of road where they're building some sort of bridge. But I have no idea where the trail goes from here. So that's kind of the conundrum that we face as it sits. But There were some red blazes. Clearly we have to follow the creek down. We should be able to find it, but you know, you come across that bridge there, and then now we got just this field here of whatever. So I don't know. And like I said, bushwhacking right now, given what I've seen online about timber rattlers this year, it's not something we really want to get into. So we got to figure out where the trail is. So back behind me you can see the bridge. There is a trail, sort of, path through this tall grass. But, I mean, it would be nice to see these trails a little more maintained, a little more cleared, a little better marked. But like I said, this waterfall is an off the beaten path type of thing. So I did not expect for this to be any better than what it is. So this trail here is a little more of a difficult and challenging hike, which is another reason why we didn't bring Sarah and the dogs here. Sarah, we could have probably done it, but it's definitely easier without her. And as far as the dogs go, I mean, like, it's kind of technical enough to just try to walk it, let alone try to fight with dogs on leashes. So, you know, that's another reason. And I knew that. I think there's a little bit more difficult stuff yet to come. And there's a good bit of flow in the creek, so I think we will see the waterfall. So that's good. We're not doing this for nothing, because that's what I was a little worried about. Like I said, it is end of June, almost. It might be the 1st of July. I don't really know what day today is, but anyway, it doesn't matter. This time of year, seeing stuff like this on small creeks, you know, then you're not going to get the full experience, but it looks like it should still be good. This is, so far, a very pretty hike. I'm really enjoying this hike, actually. I wasn't really sure what to expect on the way to the falls, but hiking through this little valley or gully or whatever you want to call it, it's been nice. And actually, down here next to the creek, the temperature is significantly lower than it was before we got into this area. One other thing I will tell you, if you're doing these kinds of hikes, it's a good idea to wear long pants, because your feet or your legs could get all tore up by various things and bugs and such. So I recommend long pants. I know it's hot, especially, you know, obviously if you're doing it this time of year. And that's another good reason to do it in the spring, right? Is it's not so hot and you can wear your long pants. And also, if you're doing things in the spring and fall, stuff's less growed up, but you're still going to have bugs to contend with. So that's where that's at, and that's another good reason to do things like this in the morning, because it's cooler and your long pants aren't going to bother you as much. I guess this is probably what I would say is the most technical part of the hike so far. There is this cable right here, and you're gonna go down there, and then over there there's another cable. It goes across the creek, and I'm not exactly sure how you're supposed to get across the creek, but the trail continues over there. So like I said, this probably not a hike for young children, especially this time of year where there could be, you know, snakes around any of these rocks and around any corner. So you need to be aware of what you're doing. And of course it doesn't help that trees are falling on the cables. So you know, you got this one here, the one that's up there behind Rachel, you know, that was holding up the cable. So you know, it's kind of a sketchy situation, but I think we can get across. Friends, I gotta tell you, with absolute certainty, this hike has exceeded my expectations, like way, way above. I mean, this is cool. This has been a challenge to get here. Probably one of the more difficult hikes that we've done. And you know, you've seen we've done some stuff with elevation, but this was more difficult for sure because of the terrain and just the way the trail is. But if you can get here, it is worth every bit of it. I really wanted to be the first guy to put this on YouTube. However, Day Hike Dave, you beat me to the punch. So he got here first, and he put his video up a couple months ago actually. But go check out his channel. He does a lot of stuff in this region, and since this is the last place that we're going locally this year anyway, you can go check out his channel if there's more stuff in, you know, the Bedford County, Fulton County region. He's got a lot of it covered already. For the remainder of our season after Cowan's Gap, we're going to be branching out, you know, elsewhere, but we got a lot of exciting stuff to show you too. Friends, this hike here was about 2 miles to get to the falls, and like I said, was fairly difficult, but Rachel's got the data from her phone, which we're going to put on the screen for you, so you'll know, you know, it'll show you a map and stuff, where we've been and stuff. For the remainder though of this video, we're headed back to Cowan's Gap, and then on our way back we're going to stop at Big Mountain Overlook, so you guys are going to want to see that. It's really cool. And then once we get back to the state park, we're probably going to go over to the lake and go swimming and try to cool off from the hike and just enjoy some time at the beach. Try to relax a little bit. And then there'll be plenty more from Cowan's Gap in next week's episode. We're talking about doing the Standing Stone Trail, some parts of it, and going to see some overlooks, and definitely taking the kayaks out on the lake up at Cowan's Gap. So next week, tune in for that, 5 o'clock on Thursdays. Stay with us now for Big Mountain Overlook. So friends, this is supposed to be the best overlook vista in the state of Pennsylvania. So while we took you to Mount Davis a few episodes ago, not much really to see there. This is pretty cool. I don't know where I first came across this one on the internet, but man, ever since I seen it, I just knew we had to come here. I'm sure that somewhere down below here you can see Cowan's Gap, so the state park and the lake. I haven't quite picked it out just yet, but you've seen where we turned off. You go left, it'll take you down to Cowan's Gap, and right on the dirt road takes you here. Should also mention, when you turn off at 30 at the top of the hill onto Ogwick Road, you really want to be careful, because that's kind of a sketchy place to make a turn. But you'll be taking that both to Cowan's Gap and to get up here. The other good thing about this one, friends, is it's easily accessible by anyone. The overlook right back there. We're parked right here. So, easily accessible, not very long drive away from Route 30. So if you're traveling, Route 30, either direction, and you're coming through, I don't know what, Mcconnellsburg area, you should check this one out, because it's pretty cool. We, though, are going to be on our way back to Cowan's Gap State Park, and we'll probably take you over to lake swimming if that's what we're doing. Otherwise, I guess we're just relaxing. Friends, this afternoon we were supposed to go over to the lake and go swimming, but as you can see, it's raining currently. It's already rained once before, so that's kind of thwarted our plans, and we wanted to have a fire, but I'm not sure if we're going to. But it looks like tomorrow we're going to head over to Buchanan's Birthplace State Park, which I've just now heard of. They had some information on it here because it's just down the road. So I think that's our plan for tomorrow. And to try to relax a little bit, because that hike this morning, really took a lot out of us. And I don't know if it's the heat or what, but hopefully it quits raining, because it's been some torrential downpours. This is just one ending. Something else worth making note of is cell service here at Cowan's Gap is non-existent. There's positives and negatives to that. One big negative, though, is you can't look at the weather report. So we have no idea what the weather's doing, and can't make plans based off of that. The other negative is when it comes to our adventures outside the park, it's hard to GPS where you're going, but it is nice to disconnect from the world, although we have the radio to sort of tell us what's going on, but their weather reports are kind of more broad, and so it'd be nice to look at the radar. But there's no cell service anywhere, so just, if that bothers you, then maybe this probably isn't the campground that you want to come to. Friends, we're here at Buchanan's Birthplace State Park, which was really not something I originally had on the agenda for this weekend, but over at Cowan's Gap, which must be the sister state park, because a lot of the state parks in the Pennsylvania park system share the same manager. They had like the informative pamphlets for this state park over there, which is close by. It's really not that far. Of course, you got to go back down the mountain to Mcconnellsburg and then back up the mountain on Route 16 to get over here. But I had heard about the state park once, I think, but never really crossed my mind to come here. History doesn't really paint James Buchanan in a positive light, and James Buchanan actually shared the same policies as Abraham Lincoln. Buchanan wrote a special message to Congress explaining his policy on slavery and the Civil War and trying to get these states to not leave the Union. And, you know, the newspapers at the time painted a horrible picture of what his statement to Congress stated. And then in Lincoln's inaugural address, Lincoln said a lot of the same things, but then those very same newspapers told a whole different story of what Lincoln said. So politics essentially hasn't changed in the last, 150 years or whatever, because you got the same stuff going on today. One person says one thing and they all love it, and then the next person says the same thing and they all hate it. So, I think until you really dig into something, especially something like this, you're not really going to know exactly what happened, and you got to use the facts and not just other people's opinions in order to educate yourself on how things actually happen. So just a couple of interesting things here. One is I never knew that Lancaster was actually the capital of Pennsylvania for quite some time, prior to Harrisburg. So that's something that I've learned today. And President Buchanan's niece essentially acted as his first lady when he was in the White House, because he was single. At some point in time earlier in his life had a fiance who died, and so he says he experienced heartbreak and never really recovered from it. So his niece, that he was very close to, and her parents died, I believe it said. So James was her guardian. And so, they were very close, and so that's how all this kind of transpired. And she fought for the whole rest of her life after the presidency to get rid of the belief at the time that Buchanan caused the Civil War, which that's still kind of how history portrays it, even to this day. I seen a recent documentary on Lincoln, and, it kind of beats around the bush a little bit when it comes to that, but that's really the way that things are taught, is that Buchanan caused the Civil War. And, I'm not really one to tell you one way or the other. I'm just telling you, she did not believe that he did. And so she raised a ton of money to put up this memorial here at his birthplace, and also the one in Washington, D.C., which I believe I've seen, but at some point maybe we'll get back to it. So politics aside, think about growing up in a place like this in the early 1800s. And, I'll have to show you a little bit more of the setting, but it is beautiful back here. Absolutely beautiful. And there was a sign I was reading that talks about that. Just growing up here, it just would have been pretty special. Buchanan, when he went to college, I guess really struggled because he grew up in the wilderness to conform to the formality of society. So following our visit at Buchanan's Birthplace State Park, we decided to stop for lunch at the Mountain House Bar and Grill, where you can eat your lunch out on the deck and enjoy this amazing view from the Tuscarora summit. After a quick lunch, we headed back to Cowan's Gap State Park. And as always, don't forget to tune back in next Thursday at 5 o'clock for part 2 of Cowan's Gap, where we'll take you kayaking, and we're also going to hike out on the Standing Stone Trail and look at some overlook.